Well, hello. I thought it was about time I properly introduced myself on here. It hadn't really dawned on me that people would come across this channel that hadn't come from the other apps. And some people have been like, this is lovely, but who are you? Where did you come from? So I thought I'd do a little, introduction video. I went onto Instagram and I've done like a Q&A box for people to submit any questions that they have. But I thought I'd also just give a little bit of a summary at the beginning because that won't cover all of it. So, hello, I'm Caroline. I live in the Isle of Skye. I moved here about 4 years ago. So obviously I didn't grow up here. I grew up in the southwest of Scotland, just outside a small town called Stranraer. The only time people ever know of Stranraer is if they holidayed in Portpatrick when they were younger, or if they've taken the ferry to Ireland. I will always get asked if I'm Irish, and it's so funny because if you ask anyone in Stranraer, they'd say I've lost my accent completely, but every single week up here, someone will say, "Are you Irish?" So the accent is definitely still in there. The accent down in Stranraer is referred to as Galloway Irish because yeah, it is so close to Belfast and where you get the ferry across. But yeah, I did not grow up in the town. I grew up on a farm that had Beltic sheep and Highland cattle. I'll often get asked how I adjusted to life somewhere a bit more remote, but honestly, I'm probably more accessible where I am now to like a main town than what I was on that farm. The only bus that came and went from the village closest to where I lived was the school bus, and taxis, if you ever tried to get one to the village or to the farm, they would grumble for about 10 minutes and then reluctantly agree. My mum and dad are both full-time farmers, but they also run a tourism business where you can go visit the Highland cows and they take you around in a trailer to see them. It's very, very cool. You should check it out. It's called Kitchen, Coos and News. And that is where I spent the first 17 years of my life. But I moved away from there at 17 to go study photography at uni. I studied at Edinburgh Napier University and I could not recommend that course enough. I just thought it really prepared me for life as a photographer. I also got into Edinburgh College of Art and it was probably like the toughest decision I've ever made because usually I am a go with the heart girl and my heart wanted the art school but my head was telling me it just wasn't the right decision, so I opted for Napier. And it did take me a few years. When did I graduate? 2017 I think. So yeah, 7 years later, I've never put my camera down for a long stretch of time. I've always worked in it in some way or another, but now 7 years later, I'm a full-time freelance photographer. And I've always said that course, I just felt like it really properly geared the people up for how to succeed as a photographer in the industry. We got taught how to do taxes. Like, I feel like that is the one gripe that everyone has about university, that it doesn't actually prepare you for the real world. But I felt that that course really bloomin' did. A big turning point in my university degree was when in third year we got a lecturer called Sophie Gerard and she done a photography project on women in farming, and it kind of was a real light bulb moment for me where I'd always thought that to be a photographer I'd need to live in a city in London, and then I seen Sophie creating this project that took her and shone a light on the more remote areas of Scotland, and I was like, I feel like I could probably do that. And that was really the first time where it dawned on me that I didn't need to live in a city for the rest of my life because I loved growing up on a farm. I am a country girl to my core. Then all my projects kind of start to move in that direction. I'd done one following my dad around the farm for a few months. I'd done one, the only female livestock auctioneer in Scotland at the time, and then I'd done one based around the Highlands and Islands. Which, now that I've lived here, I would do it very differently. That's a story for another time. I also spent a lot of time on the only inhabited island of Northern Ireland called Rathlin, doing a project about island life there. And it was never like in my head at that time that I want to move to an island, but when I think back, all the signs were there that that is where I was feeling drawn to. For all of the summer breaks during my time at uni, I went and worked at summer camps in America. The first year I worked at one in Pennsylvania as a housekeeper. The next 2 years I went to the same summer camp. The first year I worked as their photography teacher, so I taught 35mm analog photography to the campers, and then the year after I was the camp photographer and yearbook editor. And then after the last summer at that summer camp, I then just continued my travels, went and lived in Australia for a year, and then as I was on a tour into the outback after living there for a year, I looked at the guy that was taking the tour and I thought, that's a really cool job, I could do that. Literally in that moment, went on to Googled tour guides in Scotland because I was really missing Scotland at this stage, applied for a job, and before I got home I had a job as a tour guide that would take visitors to Scotland around the Highlands and Islands. This was when I first visited the Isle of Skye, but it wasn't actually when I fell in love with the Isle of Skye, because when you work as a tour guide here, you see the same places over and over again, and it doesn't really actually give you a taste of what life on the island is like. I'm not saying people that visit here aren't getting a taste of the island, they are, but being here as a tour guide and being here as a resident are two very different times in my life. But it was that job that led me to live here. A little bit of a sliding doors moment in my life was the tour guiding. It was really busy in summer, but in winter we were kind of encouraged to take some time off, and then the job would be there for us when we come back. So I decided that I was going to go to New Zealand and train to be an outdoor instructor. But while I was there getting my qualifications in like overnight hiking and rock climbing, that is when the good old pandemic hit. And I kind of made a really quick decision that I was going to get myself home, because it was a time where you had no idea what was happening to the world. You had no idea if your family would survive. And I wanted to be with my family and not be on the literal other side of the world. So I flew home and I moved back home with my mum and dad. This was also where I lived with my partner for the first time. I met him through the tour guiding, and yeah, so we lived on the farm for 3 months, and then we got an email from the tour guiding company saying, look, the tours still can't run, but there's been a change in the guidelines where we can open the guest house in Portree on the Isle of Skye. Does anyone want to go work there? And I was like, you know what? I freaking do. I could have stayed on furlough and kept getting paid to be on the farm, but instead I thought, you know what? This is a great opportunity. And the rest is history. This is when we properly fell in love with Skye. The minute we finished up work, we were in the car, we were off to visit somewhere new and just really sink our teeth into the island. But then eventually the guidelines changed again and we did get made redundant. But I said, you know what? I'm not sure I'm done with the Highlands and Islands. So Lee and I went on a bit of like a soul searching trip. We went to Mull and we went to Isla, and we were just like, can we make life up here work? And it was when I was lying in my hotel bed on the Isle of Mull, I seen this job pop up on the Isle of Skye, and I was like, it's perfect. And I knew that was going to be my job. The reason I just knew this one in Skye was the one. And I went and met with the guy who interviewed me, and he was like, look, I know you're the one for this job. He was like, I have got other people to interview, but I'll be in touch really soon. So I feel like it was just a moment where everything just fell into place, and it was a job as a social media manager and photographer for a local business here in Skye. I've been sitting on my feet and they're really sore, so I'm now a little bit lower. Yeah, that kind of brings us up till now. I worked for that company full time for about 2 years, and then I started taking on some freelance work, and then about a year ago I decided to take the leap and go full time freelance. Now only a small portion of my work is social media management, and the majority of my time is taken up with photography. Okay, I feel like that's probably enough rambling from me. I'll actually go into the actual Q&A questions now and see what you guys asked. Also, I only really recently realised that you can go back into your story archive and answer questions from Q&As like after they've expired. I would always do Q&As and be so stressed out trying to answer them all before the story expired. Maybe I'll give you a little bit, while I look for this story, I'll give you a little bit of my life on social media. I have been obsessed with Instagram and YouTube since I was a teenager, and throughout uni I recorded so many YouTube videos and just never posted them. I've always dreamt of having a YouTube channel, and another really cool thing about our course is we pretty much got taught how to use Instagram for business. We actually had to set up like an Instagram account and a Twitter account for our photography and post about it. So a lot of people ask how I got into this. I feel like that was probably where it began. That was before I feel like I even knew what a social media manager was. I don't know if that job really fully existed at that stage. But yeah, I've had my Instagram account since Instagram has been a thing. I can literally visualize that old logo right now. It was actually TikTok that I grew first to a more like substantial following. I cruised along at like 2k followers on Instagram for what felt like years, and then I started doing TikTok like 3 years ago I think, and it kind of started to grow a lot quicker than I'd ever seen Instagram grow, and I really enjoy TikTok. I think it's a brilliant app, and that was when I first started doing like day in the life videos, taking people along for my life on the Isle of Skye, and people started to really enjoy them, so that was really cool. I think it was when I took the leap into full-time freelance, I had a lot of time free up to do more stuff for myself and started dedicating a lot more time to my Instagram. And yeah, it was actually kind of the end of last year that it started to really grow, and now I think we're on about 200 and something K followers there, so that's really cool. And we just recently hit 100k on TikTok as well, so I am very present on the other apps if I'm very new to you on this app. And I can't believe it took me so long to finally take the leap into YouTube, because like I said, it's been my dream forever, but I'm so happy to be here. Okay, so the first few are probably, I've already covered them, but someone has asked, what is your favourite music genre? I never actually know the term to describe it, but I'll tell you some of my favourite bands. So I love like the Lumineers, the Teskey Brothers, Noah Khan. So I think it's kind of like indie folk, bluesy. I also love jazz. Like I love listening to jazz when I'm cooking in the kitchen. But yeah, that kind of like Lumineers style. I think there's another word for it, but I can't think what it is. Like Ziggy Alberts and all those kind of people. So kind of chilled out, bluesy indie folk. Oh, and someone also asked about music and said, do you listen to any Scottish music? Yes, I also love Scottish music. So Trail West, Tidelines, Nightworks, Runrig, Sheehan, Skerryvore, Skipping It, all of those bands, I love them. I go to a lot of Scottish music festivals, and whenever those bands play up here, I will always go along and see them when I can. Someone's asked, what do you value in others? That's such a good question. I feel like I really value people that are reliable. I get a little bit like uneasy when plans change and things kind of like start to not go the way I had imagined in my head. I know that I'll work on it and how to like be more adjustable. But yeah, I feel like reliability is probably something I value a lot. I'm also a very punctual person, and so I guess that kind of comes under reliability, when I really admire when people also turn up on time, because that is quite important to me. My family refer to our like timekeeping as McQuiston time because we are so notoriously early for everything. Oh, someone said, what's your favourite sweet treat? I'm definitely more of a savoury gal over sweet. Favourite sweet treat? Well, this is a very niche one, but the Co-op do these little cake bites called, I think they're Pop Dots. I'm obsessed with them just now. They're literally nothing special. They're just a little round bit of sponge with icing and sprinkles on them, but they're so good. But less niche, I'd probably say what I always order when it's on the menu, like at a restaurant, would be a sticky toffee pudding. Love. What country would you love to travel to? I've always said to Lee, before I ever fully settle down and like I'm done with like traveling and ready to like, you know, start a family or whatever, I want to visit Mongolia. Like, I really have this itch to go to Mongolia. Could be because my best friend Kirsty like just been to Mongolia when we first met, and I just have a vision of all the photos of when she was there. And I've had a few friends travel there and do some photography, and I just think it looks so cool. And another one that's just like a random memory that I've ended up like fixating on is, I remember the first time I watched Family Fortunes, the family won a holiday to Mauritius, and you know when they do that like montage of like the holiday that they're going to win, I can visualize that whole montage, and I was like, I need to go to Mauritius, and I've still never done. I don't really even love sun holidays that much, but I really want to go to Mauritius. There's a lot of places I want to travel. I've done a lot of travel in the US, but there's still a lot more places I want to go back to there. And also I've never been to Asia, so there's so many. And I do find it funny, like a lot of people, and I've kind of grown more online when I've been more like grounded and like in one place, but I traveled so much in my late teens, early 20s, so that is a huge part of my personality. Just post COVID I've not really got back into the flow of it, but I will. What makes you happy? Nice interiors, I guess. I definitely am someone that's very affected by the space that they're in, so being in a really beautiful space makes me feel very, very happy. But I guess this question is probably a bit of like what my love language is. And I'd say my love language is acts of service. So like if Lee brings me a cup of tea, like I literally feel my heart like swell. And or like if someone just offers to do a little thing that's going to make my life easier, that feeds my soul. My camera just stopped recording, but we're back in action. I'm not going to make the mistake of sitting on my feet again and making them go numb. The next question is, how many tattoos do you have and what are they? When I didn't have tattoos and I would ask people how many tattoos they have and they would say, oh, I don't know, I think it's something like XYZ, I would be like, as if you don't know how many tattoos you have. But when people ask me that question, I genuinely cannot pick the number off the top of my head. So let me just count. 9. I've got 9. Some of them have meaning, some of them are random. I don't take it that seriously. I've got a few like cute matching ones with friends. So me and my sister have a matching dolphin and whale, and then me and my friend Kirsty, we have like 2 parts of a lyric. So she has the first half and I have the second half. Those are probably the 2 most meaningful ones. The rest are just for fun. Someone's asked me my favourite book. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. I think I can just gobble up her books, and I read to just relax, so I like a good like easy read. So it would be a toss up between Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo or Daisy Jones and the Six. I do not know how I could ever choose, and I think it changes on the regular, but right now I'll probably say The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. What a book. What star sign are you? I feel like this one always shocks people, and it's really funny because I feel like in my core I feel like the star sign, but maybe my rising sign is more like dominant. I am like Scorpio, and on my chart I'm Scorpio everything apart from rising, where I am, it's either Virgo or Libra, I can't remember which one, but yeah, Scorpio to my core. And yeah, think what you want about that. I know some people have their opinions about Scorpios, but I think we're just a misunderstood little bunch who really care deeply and stand up for what we believe in. Do you have any siblings, and if so, where do you fall in the order? So I have a brother and a sister, and my sister is oldest, my brother is middle, and I'm youngest. And we are consecutive ages from each other. So we are super close in age and super close in just like our bond. The weekend rolled around, we'd be so excited because mum would let us all sleep in my big sister's room. And I remember once my auntie was looking after us and she was like, so what, like, you just want to take a duvet through, lie on top of the duvet and then have a blanket and sleep on the floor for the weekend? And we were like, yeah. Bit of an eclectic bunch, so obviously I'm a photographer, my brother is an engineer, and my sister is a trained opera singer, but she dabbles in a lot of different things. She's actually currently writing a book, and she's also quite a big online personality herself. She has a drastically different niche to mine. Obviously mine is like cozy homeware living. Her handle is brutal recovery. She shares wisdom and pretty brutally honest memes about recovery from addiction. So get some sisters that can do both. What is your favourite food? I am an absolute fiend for cheese. If like a really extravagant cheese board came out in front of me, like I'm excited about that, but nothing will ever do it for me quite like an extra mature cheddar cheese. The brand of cheese, Seriously Strong Cheddar Cheese, the factory for them is based in Stranraer, so I don't know if it's like biased, but I think that is the best cheese in the world and I could eat it every day and never get sick of it. It's so good. So anything cheesy, I love macaroni cheese, probably one of my favourite meals, but also I do love Mexican food as well. So if we're going for a cuisine, I'd probably say Mexican. It is very cheese focused, so that fits well with my favourite food. Okay, I'm going to do one more because this is probably getting very long at this stage. Let's end on a good one. What is your favourite TV programme? Dairy Girls. Always like known that people have comfort shows that they can watch again and again. For Lee, that is Friends, and I feel like a lot of people that is Friends, and mine has in the last few years become Dairy Girls. I've probably watched it like through about 5 times now, but sometimes I'll just like pop on a random episode because it just brings me so much joy. I think it's a perfect balance of like humour, also quite like educational and political at the same time. It makes it like a bit easier to digest information. Just like, yeah, make yourself more aware of what was a really horrific time for the people of Ireland, and I think they go about it in the most perfect way, and the actors and actresses are incredible. And if you've not watched Dairy Girls, watch it like right now because it is amazing, especially if you've fallen in love with Bridgerton. Nicola in Dairy Girls is an absolute star, like highlight of the whole show. So yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. If you have any other questions, do drop them below and I'll write them in a little list and get them answered for you in due course. So thank you so much for being here guys and watching this video. If you haven't already, give me a little subscribe and follow along for more cozy living in the Scottish Highlands. I'll see you in the next video.